Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Wednesday night's calendar.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
In Harvey's name, the parents of a teenager stabbed to death in school last week step up their campaign to protect other youngsters.
It's just what's keeping us going, what we've got to get out there about knife crime and keeping us children safe. We've got to start with the knife archers. Kids have got to be safe in schools.
Police arrest a man on suspicion of gun charges after a 36-hour standoff with armed officers in Sheffield. We're live at the scene with the latest.
Preparing for takeoff, how Scunthorpe's British steel plant could reap the rewards from a third runway at Heathrow.
A commitment today to prioritise UK steel for a project worth billions of pounds, but there are still calls for the government to do more to protect the future of this site.
And against all odds, after falling down a snowy ravine, Olivia was given a 5% chance of surviving. Now she's back on her feet and her skis once again. But first tonight, the grieving parents of Harvey Willgoose, who was stabbed to death at his school in Sheffield, today stepped up their campaign to protect other youngsters in classrooms and playgrounds across the region.
15-year-old Harvey died after the attack at All Saints Catholic at the start of last week. His funeral will take place in the city next Friday.
Caroline and Mark Willgoose say they're channeling their grief into fighting for change as they met with officials, including South Yorkshire's mayor. They also revealed their torment at persuading their son to attend school on the day he died. Katie Oscroft reports.
It's been 9 long and difficult days since the news that altered their lives for good. The shocking death of Caroline and Mark Willgoose's son Harvey touched countless people. But today his parents summoned the strength to call for change.
It's just what's keeping us going, what we've got to get out there about knife crime and keeping us children safe.
But we need to do more. I think that's absolutely clear. I'll look at any project, any programme, any change to how it currently works if it keeps young people absolutely safe, particularly in school. Happy to look at all of that evidence. We've said to Harvey's parents, happy to meet again in a few weeks once we've had a chance to look at their ideas and come back again and have a conversation with them.
In meetings across the city, they told council officials and the South Yorkshire mayor what they want to happen.
Funding for the youth clubs, them kids need somewhere to go.
And that's probably where you can educate kids, isn't it? It's not all about education in school.
Talks about things like this. But we've got to start with the knife archers. Kids have got to be safe in schools.
Last week, Harvey's school became a crime scene, closed to pupils for 2 days after he was fatally stabbed. Outgoing at home, Harvey had become reluctant to go to school. His parents are haunted because they persuaded him that day.
Because we've been goading him, he needs to go to school. The safest place, what we're telling him to do, I feel like I've led him into Lion's Den.
They did draw comfort from Saturday's outpouring of love and grief for their son. This event was held in front of the town hall, from where the council issued a statement after meeting the couple today. It said, "We want to work with them to bring people together across the city at this difficult time, ensuring the voices of young people are heard." This was echoed by one community leader.
The lovely thing of the parents is they're not shouting out and blaming people, they're wanting change. So I think all the events, what the parents have done, including the funeral, is to ask people for change and ask councillors and people in authority to come forward and speak to us as community groups.
Harvey said his parents would have been proud of what they've achieved today as they begin planning for his funeral.
It's a celebration of his life, really.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I want everybody who wants to be there to be there. Everybody's hurting. I get a bit of comfort out of that, knowing that we're not on his own.
A 15-year-old boy, too young to be identified, has been charged with Harvey's murder. Katie Oscroft, ITV News, Sheffield.
Next this evening, to the end of a 36-hour standoff in Sheffield as police arrested a man and took him into custody.
The major incident, involving a large response team, including armed officers, brought parts of the city centre to a standstill throughout yesterday.
Well, our reporter Hannah Norbury is live for us by the scene at Broad Street now. Hannah, what do we know about that arrest earlier today?
Well, it was in the building behind me that arrest happened. We got the news at around 8 a.m. this morning. And pictures circulating on social media appear to show the moment that police moved in to make that arrest. Now, officers say a 47-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of firearm offences, a bomb threat, a fray and criminal damage. And as you say, that was after a 36-hour standoff around the spot that I'm standing in right now. It saw major roads closed and around 80 residents evacuated. Back here today, things are now getting back to normal. The roads have reopened and police have said residents can return to their homes.
Now, Hannah, remind us how this all began.
Well, this all happened after concerns were raised for a man inside the building on Monday night at around 7 o'clock. He was alleged to have weapons. There was a major police presence with dozens of officers, and those residents evacuated had to sleep overnight at Ponds Forge. Now, residents I've spoken to today say they're relieved it's all over. Meanwhile, the 47-year-old man arrested remains in police custody. And of course, we will keep you up to date with any updates and developments on this story as and when they happen.
Hannah Norbury live with the latest in Sheffield for us this evening.
On to other news now, and a 10-year-old girl who died after she was hit by a car in Bradford has been named as Humaira Bibi. It happened on Ransdale Road at the junction with Ramsey Street on Sunday evening. A 16-year-old girl suffered serious but not life-threatening injuries. The 35-year-old driver was arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving and has since been released on bail.
Well, you're watching Wednesday night's calendar. Still to come, Let There Be Light. York Minster puts on a dazzling display to celebrate the city's heritage and culture.
And although there's a full moon tonight, this was the sun this afternoon trying to get through the cloud. Will we ever see it again? All the detail a little later on.
Well, next to the promises that our region will feel the benefits of record investment in Heathrow. Today, British Steel's Scunthorpe plant was chosen as the location to announce a multi-billion-pound expansion of the airport, with agreements that UK steel will be used in the construction.
Well, unions welcomed the news but said workers are still living under a cloud of uncertainty about the future of the site and whether they'll even be able to make the steel that Heathrow will need.
Well, Emma Wilkinson is live in Scunthorpe for us tonight. Emma, what more was said at this announcement today?
Well, the word on repeat here today was growth. Heathrow said there would be a once-in-a-generation investment to expand 2 terminals and said proposals for a 3rd runway would be submitted in the summer, proposals the government has already expressed its support for. And the government and Heathrow bosses were keen to stress today that such large private investment, the benefits of that would be felt across the country, not least because Heathrow has signed what's known as the UK Steel Charter, a pact, so to speak, to use UK-produced steel as part of the construction process. And earlier I spoke to the CEO of Heathrow and I asked him what that would mean in reality for plants like this.
In terms of our project, it means that we will focus on buying British, not least British steel, as we're talking about today, and hopefully that'll give production facilities like this a high level of certainty that there will be demand also in the future. Like everything else in business, we need things to be competitive. And my hope is that steel from Scunthorpe or anywhere else in the British steel industry will be competitive when we get to have those discussions.
But at the moment, at least, things are very challenging for the industry. Just this week, Donald Trump announced tariffs on steel imports to the US. And currently, only around a third of the steel used in projects in this country is made in the UK, something unions say must change, and they want the rules around that to be changed. The unions also said today that while this is a positive step forward, the elephant in the room is that many who work here are still concerned about the future of this site without government support.
This whole government is coming on the basis of a growth agenda. This is our vision, this is our mission, this is what we're going to do, we're going to build. You can't do that without construction steel. So we need to make sure we all work together to secure this site. But it's got to the point now where we need to be doing less talking and more action.
I'm meeting with the management here today. The Secretary of State is meeting with the shareholders next week. We are talking to them every week about what we can do, how we can work together to make sure we secure a future here for an industry that has been in decline but has so much potential when you look at the demand for steel that we know is coming our way.
Well, the expansion of Heathrow has long been highly controversial, especially because of the potential impacts on the environment. The government insists that they would have to meet certain targets, but says the economic growth that would come from expansion would be felt far and wide and would be a huge vote of confidence for our steel industry.
Emma Wilkinson, live in Scunthorpe, thank you. Well, from Heathrow to South Yorkshire, and today £20 million has been agreed to help Doncaster Sheffield Airport reopen in spring next year. The Council's Cabinet approved a £10 million package, which was matched by the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. It'll be used to secure the airport's suspended airspace and essential works. Last month, the Council said £100 million of public money would also go towards the site's reopening.
Now, in case you've forgotten, and I haven't, let me stress, it's Valentine's Day on Friday. Sally, got any plans?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they're plans I can divulge.
Oh, really? Secret plans?
Have you? Oh, you're at work, aren't you? I know you're going to be here, so that's very romantic, isn't it?
Well, yeah, kind of.
Well, while our minds might be turning to romance, or might not, there's a warning not to get duped by scammers taking advantage of our softer side.
Yeah, so-called romance fraud is big business, and it's on the rise, with more than 3,000 reports of people being targeted in our region over recent years.
One North Yorkshire woman told Calendar how her scammer actually lived 30 miles from her with his wife, but still managed to dupe her family out of tens of thousands of pounds. Nick Smith has more.
A police raid on a bustling high street in the middle of the capital isn't something you'd normally associate with romance fraud. But a man arrested and taken into custody is suspected of conducting an operation in a separate back room behind a tourist shop, scamming hundreds of people out of millions of pounds, pretending to be lonely hearts in search of love. The store and building owners are not suspected of any involvement in the alleged offences. People often associate romance fraud with lone individuals going after quite vulnerable people. However, this police operation has led us right to the heart of one of the busiest shopping streets in the country, which shows just how this type of crime has become very sophisticated and can fund even more sinister operations.
This is organised criminality. It's not just one individual, it almost has a global reach. So it's various people working cohesively to target vulnerable victims, and they're making a significant amount of money from this. So the sort of thing we're dealing with here is money laundering, but to finance terrorism, drug supply, firearms criminality. So this is serious organised crime.
It's part of an operation codenamed Hen House by law enforcement. There have been nearly 3,500 reported romance fraud incidents across our region since 2020, with West Yorkshire Police registering the most at 1,314. Colleen Greenwood from North Yorkshire spent years in a relationship with a man who gave a false name on a dating app and went on to scam her relatives out of tens of thousands of pounds. They even had a child together.
Everything about him was a lie, even his name. He wasn't single, he wasn't a fireman, he actually lived 30 miles away from me with his wife and sons. I didn't actually give him any money. He did get money out of businesses and got people to invest in businesses he had. The scam towards me was more emotional and in some ways worse, because I built a life with this man that didn't exist.
Fraudsters will pretend to be a military man working overseas, or a military woman in fact, an oil rig worker, a doctor volunteering abroad. It will always be something where the profession is what we would consider to be trustworthy. Fraudsters will get in touch with potential victims any way possible. All social media platforms, dating apps, and even things like when you play word games online, they pop up in the chat there. It's almost wherever you go, there are these fraudsters waiting.
And government ministers tell me social media companies need to make their platforms safer to prevent scams.
If they're hosting criminal activity, they can't just brush it away. They have to take responsibility, and the government will be looking at the next 12 months at how we can strengthen that relationship to ensure we crack down on this type of crime.
With further developments in tech and AI, the scammers' toolkit is growing stronger by the day. all to exploit some of our most basic desires. Nick Smith, ITV News.
The ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Lucrezia Millarini.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, we reveal the shocking insights into the recruitment and tactics of neo-Nazis in Britain.
I've got about a grand's worth of throwing knives and axes on the way, and I've got a bunch of bows and archery bows.
Fascism masquerading as fitness as white supremacists train in plain sight. Also tonight, more questions for the Prevent programme in the wake of the murder of MP Sir David Amess more than 3 years ago. And is it true love or not? The rise of AI romance scams. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
We will, yeah, AI romance. What next? OK, time for some sport now, and Leeds United extended their unbeaten run to 14 league games after thrashing Watford last night. The Championship League leaders raced into an early lead when Dan James pounced on a defensive mistake. The winger then doubled Leeds' lead 9 minutes later. 2 turned to 3 before half-time. Manor Solomon's deflected strike gave the keeper no chance, and Joel Peru rounded off the night with some nimble footwork in the box as it finished 4-0.
Meanwhile, down in League Two, Bradford City are up into the automatic promotion places after beating Accrington. Alex Pattinson's goal of the season contender, separating the two sides at Valley Parade.
Yeah, good win for them. Now to the incredible recovery of a young woman from South Yorkshire who was given just a 5% chance of survival after falling down a ravine during a ski holiday in Bulgaria.
Olivia Corbière was away with friends when she suffered multiple injuries, including a fractured spine and pelvis, and sustained a bleed on the brain last year.
Well, thanks to support from family and friends, as well as the Headway Rotherham Brain Injury Charity, she braved Bansko once again and met the surgeon who saved her life. Now she's back home. Our reporter Jonathan Brown went to meet her.
Back enjoying life in the place it nearly ended.
You daredevil!
Almost a year on from a near-fatal skiing accident, Olivia Corbière last week carved out new memories on the slopes of Bansko in Bulgaria.
I just think, why should you let fears control your life?
She suffered a bleed on the brain, broken pelvis and fractured an eye socket and 3 vertebrae when she fell down a ravine last March. But amid the ongoing surgeries and support groups, she went back to where it happened, in part to thank those who helped her.
I'm so lucky to be alive. Yeah, the neurosurgeon saved my life, but he wouldn't have a life to save if it weren't for my friends jumping into that ravine and pulling me out. And you can never say thank you more than enough. I've had the physical impact of it, but there was the worry of, is she going to be okay? Is she going to live? My family and friends have been through all of that.
She was just 2 days into a holiday with her sister and 5 friends when it happened. She woke up in a hospital bed in Sheffield 5 weeks later. In total, Olivia spent 39 days on hospital wards in Bulgaria and Sheffield. This was the moment she left the Royal Hallamshire for home for the first time. There, she's received medical help from community nurses and has since returned to work as a kitchen designer, defying the odds every step of the way.
I can't believe how far you've come in such a short amount of time.
Her recovery's been aided by social groups run by the Headway Rotherham Brain Injury Charity, meeting others who've been through trauma like she has.
Absolutely unbelievable. Somebody who's been through that trauma really shouldn't be as well as Liv is. Brain injury is life-changing and can be really isolating because you don't realise what you're going through, other people are actually going through too.
These people know what it's like, and it gives you that clear mind that you know that there is something ahead of your accident and you're not just going to be defined by it for the rest of your life.
Do you think it's given you an appreciation of just like how precious life is?
Yeah, it makes me think like life is too short, and if there's something that you want to do, like do it. Like, don't let it hold you back.
While she has more surgery planned, Olivia says her focus is on making the most of every moment. She's going backpacking this spring, determined to live out the adventures she almost missed out on. Jonathan Brown, ITV News, Aston, near Rotherham.
Well, she really is one remarkable lady.
Really is.
Kerry, not much remarkable about the weather still?
Not very remarkable. We're all starting to want to run away, aren't we?
Oh,
And find warmer, sunnier climes. Speaking of running away, check this out. People in Halifax woke up to a bit of a surprise this morning when a flock of around 40 sheep were spotted wandering around some residential streets.
Whoa.
They've now been rounded up, you'll be very glad to know, and safely back on the farm. Yeah, all a little bit Wuthering Heights today, wasn't it? Here's some more sheep at Dunford Bridge in South Yorkshire, reminding me of the word which isn't essentially meteorological, it's more literary, brumus, meaning dense mist and fog. From the French we were talking about, weren't we, for the word foggy. Lots of low cloud over the hills over the last few days, but we have actually got drier conditions into tomorrow, so probably less problematic of that horrible extensive low cloud that we've had over the hills over the last few days. There's also a full moon tonight, known as a snow moon, and it's also a blue moon too in any given month. But are we going to see it? Are we going to get any clear spells? Here's your forecast.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, cloudy skies continue to dominate over the next few days, although compared to the last few days, it is getting a little bit better. For the rest of the working week, winds lighter, drier and a little bit brighter with a few holes in the cloud. Low pressure is trying to migrate in from the Atlantic though as we head towards the weekend, but certainly on Friday we've got some fairly cold and dense air over the UK, and an area of high pressure migrating from Scandinavia will keep all these weather fronts at bay at least until Saturday and Sunday, when things are likely to change. So overnight tonight, largely cloudy, mostly dry. The blue you can see on the chart indicating under any clearer skies there will be a frost overnight tonight, so temperatures will be hovering at freezing or just below under any clear skies, and a few degrees above where we've got the cloud cover. But overall, for most of us, it's going to feel pretty cloudy and cold as we head through into tomorrow. Here's a reminder of this time last week, that your Thursday sun times for tomorrow, 7:31 and 5:11. So not quite as clear as we head into tomorrow, but there will be a marginal improvement compared to the last few days. So a cold and frosty start in places. Frost will remain right over the tops of the Pennines for much of the day, and a few breaks in the cloud, a few bright if not sunny spells trying to come through, but still a lot of cloud around, feeling cold. Still got that easterly, it's still fairly cold, but it is a little bit lighter tomorrow compared to previous days. As we head through into Friday, we are expecting a cold start, but mostly dry. That high pressure keeping this system at bay, at least for now, but it does look more unsettled as we head into the weekend.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
That's very much, Kerry. Now, just before we say goodbye, let's take a look at these incredible pictures live from York Minster. It's the Colour and Light Show, which is on until the 2nd of March. Every night, the South Transept is illuminated to celebrate the beauty of York's wildlife and highlight the city's heritage and creativity.
Incredible, isn't it?
It's so beautiful.
What they can do these days, eh? Well, there are all sorts depicted there. Peregrine falcons, foxes, even legendary dragons. You can see them there, can't you, I think? It's the third year in a row the event's been held, and it promises to be a great attraction for all ages. Take your kids. That's it from us, though, for now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. It looks great at York Minster, though.
Fantastic.
You going to go?
I think I will. Check it out till the 2nd of March. That's it from us. Lucrezia's next. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.